lie to me. Don't be shy. I just wanna talk to you.
Wonderful. Tea for the Englishman. But the Englishman has decided to become very Ukrainian and no longer takes milk in his tea. Hello, thank you for inviting me to your little program. It's great to be here on Russian language, English language TV, and to have a very English cup of tea. Thank you.
First name.
My name is John.
Surname.
Is King.
Nationality.
I am English, or British, as my passport would claim.
Occupation.
I've had one or two professions. Now I am enjoying my life. Hello again. I'm told that we're going to talk about learning English, which for me is easy. I was born there.
I just wanna talk to you.
What languages do you know?
Some people say I'm reasonably good at English. There's a couple of schools here that foolishly pay me to teach people English, but I seem to get away with it. I know American, which, in my opinion, is a totally different language to English. I know some Russian. Or to be fair, I have what I call survival Russian. I can travel on the buses, I can go to a shop and buy something, which is very important. Ukrainian, for me, is a mystery. I compare Russian and Ukrainian the same as English and American. Everyone who speaks English understands American and vice versa. I am told if you speak Russian, you can understand Ukrainian and vice versa, but the two languages are different.
С точки зрения англичан, американский вариант английского языка слишком прямолинейный и грубый, а свой британский вариант они считают языком вежливых людей. Американцы же считают британский вариант английского языка чересчур натянутым и лицемерным, а свой родной американский вариант приветливым и дружелюбным.
When I go to America, which I've done many times, they always say, or someone will always say, "You have wonderful English." And I am thinking to myself, I wonder why this is. Perhaps it's because I come from England and you don't. You claim to speak English, but you're speaking a different language. Many examples. If I can tell you, we did a little novelty when I was working for the BBC in England. We went to a petrol filling station, and the first 10 people that came in to put petrol, so it was totally at random, we asked them, "What is a fender? Can you tell us what a fender is?" If I remember correctly, 5 or 6 people had no idea what a fender was, never heard of it. 2 or 3 people said, "I think it's a guitar. I think there is a make of Fender something guitar." And 1 or 2 people said, "I think that's what Americans call a bumper. In England, we call it a bumper. In America, they call it a fender." It's totally different. Really, they are two similar languages, but two different languages. I wish Americans would say they speak American because they don't speak English. English, traditional English, as taught in perhaps the 2 most famous universities in the world, Oxford and Cambridge, is generally accepted in the academic world. Sadly, with the advent of Hollywood, American English, so difficult to say American English, but this variation of English that is American has become culturally accepted around the world due to the likes of Eddie Murphy and the most popular films that seem to be translated into every language now. However, saying that, doing my studies in Russian, the wonderful translators who translate American films into Russian language I'm not sure which school they went to, but sometimes what the words that they translate into Russian are totally different from the words that were spoken on screen, which for me makes television here even more amusing.
Современный английский далек от классического языка Шекспира и Теккерея. Выделяют три языковых типа. Conservative – консервативный. Английский язык королевской семьи и парламента. Received pronunciation – принятый стандарт. Язык средств массовой информации. Его еще называют BBC English. И Advanced – язык молодежи.
I teach English in a couple of schools, which I enjoy very much. It can be a little frustrating sometimes because some of the schools, some of the native Russian language schools, do tend to have teachers who have learned American rather than English. For instance, I have one student. I do not know if you will ever see this, Mark, but hello, Mark. Can I remind you, please, that in English, the alphabet ends with the letter Z. In American, it ends with the letter Z. And seeing we are studying English, Mark, can we remember Z, please, rather than Z? Thank you. I like to have something sweet in my tea. So, 1, 2 very big spoons of sugar. I will get very fat. Very nice. I do two kinds of classes. One is conversational English. The biggest, not problem, the biggest desire of native Russian speakers is to be able to travel somewhere and to talk to people in English. You do not have to be an academic Einstein to do that. You just need to have fluent English to be able to talk. That's the most important thing. I liken it to if I picked up one of my students tomorrow and dropped them in a city like London or Manchester, would you be able to find somewhere to sleep? Would you be able to walk into a shop and buy some food and people understand you? Or would you have to sleep on the street and go hungry? If you can find somewhere to sleep and you can buy some food and people understand you, then you have passable English. And then you work to improve on it. The other type of English that I teach is more what you call grammatica, and we call grammar, which is difficult. English grammar is a changing animal all the time. It's very inconsistent and very difficult to learn, and I do sympathize with those who are studying English grammar. My personal opinion, for what it's worth, is that too many English language teachers in Russian language schools, be they state schools or private schools, have never lived, worked, or been taught in an English language country, particularly in England. And what you learn from a book is very different from what people speak on the street. Little example, I brought to my students a DVD of a regular TV program in England. We played 10 minutes of it. They have lessons in school, they have lessons with me. When I'm teaching, perhaps I talk more slowly than I would if I was with my friends having a beer or something. They watched this program for 5 or 10 minutes, and you could see by the glazed look in their eyes and the mouth that had opened, they were struggling. But that's everyday English language. That's the language that you will get if I drop you in a supermarket in Birmingham or London. So there is a problem. The teachers need to learn more and certainly need more experience with native English speakers to be able to pass that on to their students.
Сегодня на английском говорят более чем в 60 странах мира. Почти 400 миллионов человек считают его родным, а для 100 миллионов он является вторым языком. Наиболее распространенный вариант английского языка – американский. На нем говорят 80% населения США. Тем не менее, он не закреплен в Федеральной Конституции как официальный язык.
I just wanna talk to you.
If I have a new student, the most important thing to learn is, why do you want to learn English? Sadly, with some of the younger students, the answer is, because my mother and father want me to. That is not a good motivation for learning English. You're there because mother and father want you to be there. You'd prefer to be at home watching television or playing a computer game. So your motivation for learning is little. With many older students, they want to travel. They want to see other countries, different parts of the world. And English perhaps is not the most widely spoken. There's some debate. I think there are more people that speak Chinese than speak English. But if you travel the world, and I guess I'm lucky, I've been to more than 100 countries, always you can find people that speak English. There is somewhere in hotels, in bars, in cafes, there is someone who speaks English. You need to be not frightened to make mistakes. I have never been frightened of making mistakes. The best way to learn is to make mistakes. Someone will correct you, or you learn the hard way sometimes. And many people I meet in Russian-speaking countries just are a little frightened to talk in English. I have no problem in you speaking to me in English, even if it's disjointed, if you get things wrong. There's no problem in that. I do it all the time. I go into a shop, and perhaps I'm getting better now, but when I first arrived in a Russian-speaking country, to go into a shop and have to just point at things because I did not know the word for tomato. I did not know pomidor, tomato. I just thought, red, round thing. I want one of those, which made me look very stupid. So very quickly I learned that a pomidor is a tomato. Look is onion. You pick up these words very quickly. And the most important thing to do is to learn lots of words. Forget grammar. Grammar does not matter to begin with. The important thing is the person you're talking to must understand you. And then once you've learned lots of words, you can start finding the little things that put them together, and sentences become easier to put together. It's just confidence. A little trick that I try to get some of my students to do to improve their English. It costs nothing. It's very easy to do. As long as there are two of you. You need two of you. Find a cafe. Doesn't matter how bad your English is or how good it is. Just go to a cafe and say, for 1 hour, we will not speak a word of Russian. We will only speak English. If you want to say something and you cannot think of the word, make sure you both have a dictionary. And then you must flick through the pages and point to the word. But you mustn't say a word in Russian. For one, it's fun. It's a game. You can have tea or coffee if you wish.